Heartless, Forbidden, Book 1. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Paulina Schubert. Chapter 4. Jenna's bedroom was not what I had expected. It was completely white, including the bare white walls, the furniture, the bedding, and the carpet. The only exception was her black laptop computer. This didn't look like a teenager's room at all. Her house was an upper-middle-class colonial, which was much nicer than my grandma's small home, but still dwarfed by Cade's mansion. Jenna's family wasn't struggling for money, though, judging by her comfortable home and decent car. I couldn't even afford a cheap starter car, and she was driving a shiny red car with only 25,000 miles on it. She was wearing navy blue shorts and a blue and white striped shirt, and she drove a red car. So seeing the lack of color in her room was a surprise. The clean simplicity of it appealed to me, though, and I considered doing something similar with my new room. My bedroom in our apartment was a disorganized mess, but the large bedroom in the mansion had plenty of closet space to neatly store my stuff. I also couldn't imagine taping posters to the walls there like I did in my current room. Wow, I marveled as I gazed around Jenna's room. I kind of copied it from Cade's room, she explained. His is all black and white. Have you seen it? No, I replied. I only saw the room that's going to be mine. Robert, Mr. Stover, said I could redecorate it. Kayla's room? Jenna guessed. I shrugged. I don't know her name. Cade said it was the daughter of his dad's ex-girlfriend. That was Kayla, she confirmed. She was in that bedroom a lot. You should definitely get new furniture. She seemed to be alluding to the same thing Cade had told me in much cruder terms. I didn't like assuming things about this girl I'd never met, and I didn't want to gossip about her. Whatever she had done was her business, and I had no interest in it anyway. I decided to bring up what did interest me. What can I do to help you get Cade back? Jenna responded with an amused laugh. You don't waste any time. Okay, I wasn't expecting this kind of cooperation from you, but I'm glad to have it. I don't have time to waste, I told her. I need to get him away from Skylar as quick as possible. She'll only be hurt worse the longer this goes on. How do you know it won't work out for them? She questioned me curiously. Are you kidding? I replied. You know what an asshole he is. I don't even know why you'd want him back, but at least you know what you're getting into. He's got Skylar thinking he's a great guy. Everyone thinks he's a great guy, Jenna said. You're the only one who doesn't like him. What'd he do to piss you off? We might be working together for a common good, but I wasn't about to start telling her everything. We were partners right now, but that didn't necessarily make us friends. I didn't trust people that quickly and easily. At least, not anymore. He was just his usual charming self, I said. She saw that I wasn't really going to answer, so she moved on to strategizing. I should help you redecorate your room. I understood the reason for bringing her into Cade's house, but it saddened me to do this without Skylar. I didn't feel guilty about anything that I was doing behind her back, but redecorating my room was something that I should be sharing with my best friend instead of her rival. I resented Cade for making me resort to this. None of it would be any fun without Skylar. I'll find out if we can go over there tomorrow, I told Jenna. We started working on our project a little, and then she drove me home. Mom wasn't home yet, so I started cooking in our tiny kitchen. I wondered now if she would quit her waitressing jobs after she married Robert. She certainly wouldn't need the money. It started me thinking about how different our lives would be. I was determined to still keep working my part-time job, though, and I planned to get a student loan to pay for college. My mom was marrying a wealthy man, but that had nothing to do with me. I would be responsible for my own expenses after I finished high school. Skylar called me, and as soon as I answered, she started telling me about Cade asking her out on a date. It's happening, she exclaimed in excitement. It's finally happening. Oh, I responded. She was too thrilled to even notice my lackluster response. We're going out to dinner on Saturday? Oh my God, I've got to find something to wear. We need to go shopping. Friday? Or maybe we should start right away tomorrow. It might take a couple of trips to find the right thing. I'm working Friday, I reminded her, still not commenting on her date. Oh, then it'll have to be tomorrow, she said. We'll go right after school. This meant that I would have to postpone taking Jenna to Cade's house. As much as I didn't want Skylar to go on this date, I couldn't bail on her for the shopping trip. I was still her best friend, and she wanted me to do this best friend thing with her. She'd had a best friend before me, but the girl had moved away the summer after their freshman year of high school. Then I had arrived just in time for the beginning of sophomore year to fill some of the emptiness caused by the absence of her best friend. Skylar still talked to Rachel on the phone and on Facebook, but it wasn't the same as having her here. She had told me all this while we were getting to know each other after she had befriended me on my first day in my new school. "I know you've got to be missing your friends too," she had remarked with a pensive expression. I didn't really, because they were connected to my bad memories of Lucas. He had used me to win a bet, but I had used them to become more popular in high school. Their popularity had rubbed off on me just as I'd hoped, but I should have been careful what I wished for. Before my brief time in the popular crowd, I had spent my childhood playing with the neighborhood kids. There hadn't been anyone that I considered my best friend, though, until I met Skylar. 2 things had happened that made my mom decide to move. My grandma had died, and Mom had broken up with the first boyfriend she'd had since my father. Grandma had given my mom legal control of everything when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and Mom had stayed home to take care of her. When her condition worsened, Mom took out a home equity loan on Grandma's house so that she could hire a home health aide. She was able to work again while the nurse cared for Grandma. Mom had promised Grandma that she wouldn't put her in a nursing home, but she had to break that promise when Grandma needed more medical care than she could get at home during the last 3 months of her life. By that time, Grandma no longer recognized any of us, and she couldn't even swallow food anymore. Shortly after she died, Mom also found out that her boyfriend was cheating on her with one of the other waitresses she worked with. It ruined her relationship and her job. She wanted to make a fresh start somewhere else, but she asked my opinion on it. I had spent the rest of freshman year after Lucas dumped me hating every day that I had to see him at school, so I was relieved to have a chance to get away from my mistakes and start over in a new place where no one knew about me. There was nothing left to miss from my old life since both my grandma and my childhood home were gone. Grandma's house had gone into foreclosure, and it was being taken from us. Mom knew that Lucas had broken up with me, but she didn't know that I had slept with him, nor about the bet. I understood her heartbreak over her boyfriend's betrayal, and why she wanted to move away from him, because I felt the same way. I eagerly told her I was ready to move too, so we left the state we'd both been born in and moved 1 state away, to Ohio. I was a little disappointed that Mom hadn't been adventurous enough to move us to California, but I was grateful to be anywhere that Lucas Klein wasn't. Cincinnati wasn't Los Angeles, but we couldn't afford Los Angeles. Mom's meager savings account was barely enough to cover the deposit and the first month's rent on our new apartment. She was extremely fortunate to immediately find a job at a Denny's restaurant, even if she needed to get a second job to keep us afloat. It was her second job at an upscale restaurant that she met Robert. He came in for a business lunch with some clients. She wasn't even assigned to his table, but he noticed her and sought her out to ask her for a date. When she told him that she didn't date customers, he pointed out that he wasn't her customer. He came back again the following week, and he asked for another waitress when the hostess tried to seat him at one of Mom's tables. He was having his lunch alone this time, and the manager came to speak with him. Mom's boss later told her that he had thought there was a problem since Mr. Stover had inquired into her scheduled days, but then rejected her as a server. He chuckled when he told her how Mr. Stover had explained her no dating customers rule, and stated that he must never specifically be her customer because of it. He assured the manager that it had nothing to do with Miss Chapman's job performance, but only with her dating policy. "I'll never go out with him," Mom had declared to me in agitation. "He can keep asking until he's blue in the face." "He asked you out again?" I had questioned. "No," she snapped, "but he's made it obvious he wants to." I wasn't sure why this aggravated her so much when he was only eating there and not bothering her. She complained to me how he kept coming in every week, although he didn't approach her again after the first time. It seemed to me like she was paying more attention to him than he was to her, but I didn't comment on it. One day she came home irate about him having a girlfriend and a daughter. "I knew he was a lying cheater," she raged. "She's young and beautiful, but that's not enough for a man like him." Mom's blue eyes blazed with anger, but she looked young and beautiful herself. "Did you tell her about him?" I asked. "I couldn't. They were there with their daughter. She's such a little doll. She looks just like her mother, and she was dressed in the most adorable princess dress. She even had a tiara. It was her 4th birthday, but she couldn't blow out the candles by herself. The poor thing had a terrible cold. She was coughing something awful. They should have taken her out while she was sick." "I guess it's because it was her birthday," I said. "She probably begged them to do it." I suppose so, Mom grudgingly agreed. I sometimes imagined what it would have been like to do things like that with my dad. I could picture myself in the little girl's place, out at a restaurant for my birthday with my parents. They would have let me dress up like a princess, too. My dad wouldn't have been asking out any other woman, though, because he was madly in love with my mom. They were planning to get married when they turned 18, but he died at 17 while she was pregnant with me. She was already living with him and his mom because her dad had kicked her out when he found out she was pregnant. Her stepmother had tried to argue that he couldn't kick her out on the street, but he'd silence her with a smack across the mouth. My dad's mom had taken her in, and my mom had no more contact with her dad. She had let her stepmom know that she was okay, but the poor woman was too afraid of defying her husband to keep in contact with her. Mom had an older brother who ended up dying of a drug overdose. Their mother died when they were children. My dad was an only child, so when my grandma died, I was left with Mom as my only family. I didn't count her father as family since he had never even cared to meet me. Mom's drama with Robert Stover continued even in his absence. He didn't show up at the restaurant for 3 weeks, and she remarked that he must have finally gotten the hint. Since she had been talking about him during those 2 weeks, I suspected that she wasn't entirely happy about not seeing him. When he returned, he was alone. Mom traded places with his waitress, but he made no protest about it. After she took his order, she asked how his daughter was. She told me that he seemed stunned before he got angry and retorted that she must know exactly how his daughter was if she had looked up his family and found out that he had a daughter. I didn't look up anything, Mom told him. I saw her with my own eyes. Did you forget that you brought her here for her birthday? Did you also forget that you had a girlfriend when you asked me out? Oh, you're talking about Michelle and Jasmine. Michelle is my personal assistant, and Jasmine is her daughter, he explained. I took them out for Jasmine's birthday. She's not your daughter? She asked him. But you mentioned that you have a daughter too. Does she live with you? When Mom was telling me about it, she said that she was wondering if he'd traded in his wife for a young girlfriend and was spending more time with her daughter than he was with his. She's dead, he stated. She died when she was 10, but Jasmine might not even live that long. He then began to cry quietly for the little girl, and I guessed that's when Mom began to fall for him. She'd brought him out a glass of water and left him to compose himself. He'd left his meal mostly uneaten, but he'd left his business card with his personal cell number written on the back. Mom had given the hefty tip to his original waitress, but kept the business card. When she called him that evening, they talked for 2 hours. She found out that Jasmine had cystic fibrosis, and that he'd spent the past 2 weeks visiting her in the hospital during his lunch hour. Michelle was a doting mother, and he couldn't help getting drawn into her daughter's life. She was devastated when Jasmine was diagnosed with the lung disease, and it hit him hard too. He'd insisted on getting her the best medical care available, but there was no cure. His own daughter had been killed in an accident, but he didn't dwell on talking about her. Mom guessed that it had been too painful for him, so she didn't pry. He was more forthcoming about his teenage son, Cade. His divorce with his children's mother was also mentioned. Mom told Robert about me and about my dad. They spoke again the next evening, and she said nothing about any no-dating rule the next time he asked her out. They kept seeing each other, and one day she announced that she was in love. I glanced at her and saw a pensive expression on her face, and I knew that she was thinking about my dad. I never thought that it would happen again, but I'm in love. It's okay, I soothed, thinking that she was looking for reassurance. Even after that, I didn't expect her to marry Robert. If only his son wasn't here. Open up, he ordered as he pounded on the door.